When was the last time you were bored? I mean the kind of boredom where time seems to stretch endlessly, where your mind feels like a vast, empty desert, devoid of stimulation or purpose. If you're like most people in our hyper-connected, always-on world, it's probably been a while. But here's a thought that might surprise you. That boredom you've been avoiding? It might just be the key to unlocking your creative potential, improving your focus, and even boosting your overall well-being. Today, I aim to make you feel not just better about being bored, but to actually desire it. Yes, you read that right. By the end of this, you might find yourself craving the very state you've been desperately trying to escape. Let's start by defining what we mean when we talk about boredom. For many of us, boredom conjures up images of endless school lectures, where the teacher's monotonous voice seems to drone on for eternity, each tick of the clock feeling like an hour. Or perhaps it's the feeling of staring at a to-do list, realizing that nothing on it appeals to you in the slightest. In our modern world, we've become experts at avoiding these moments of tedium. We reach for our smartphones, endlessly scrolling through social media feeds, watching vacation photos of people we barely know, engaging in heated debates about which superhero could beat up which other superhero, or even, let's be honest, watching videos like this one, all in a desperate attempt to stave off the creeping tendrils of boredom. But what if I told you that this constant avoidance of boredom might be robbing us of something essential? To illustrate this point, let me share with you a fascinating experiment conducted by researchers at the University of Virginia. The setup was simple. Participants were placed in a bare room with absolutely no distractions. No phones, no books, no windows to stare out of, nothing. Well, almost nothing. There was one thing in the room, a button that, when pressed, would deliver a mild electric shock to the participant. Now, you might think that given the choice between sitting quietly with their thoughts and voluntarily experiencing pain, people would choose the former. You'd be wrong. The results were startling. 67% of men and 25% of women chose to press the button and give themselves an electric shock rather than sit alone with their thoughts. Let that sink in for a moment. People would rather experience physical discomfort than be left alone with their own minds. This experiment reveals something profound about our relationship with boredom and our desperate need for stimulation. It's particularly interesting to note the gender disparity in the results. The fact that men were significantly more likely to seek out this form of negative stimulation might speak to societal pressures and expectations around masculinity and the need for constant action or engagement. But regardless of gender, the key takeaway is clear. We are collectively terrible at being bored. But here's the twist. Boredom, far from being a waste of time, might actually be incredibly beneficial for our minds. When we allow ourselves to be bored, we activate what neuroscientists call the default mode network in our brains. This is the same network that lights up when we engage in mind-wandering or daydreaming. And it's in these moments of apparent mental idleness that our brains can make some of their most creative and insightful connections. Think about it. How many times have you had a brilliant idea pop into your head while doing something utterly mundane? Maybe you've fantasized about what you'd do if you suddenly inherited $1 billion while waiting in line at the grocery store. Or perhaps you've solved a complex problem at work while absent-mindedly brushing your teeth. History is replete with examples of great thinkers and creators who made their most significant breakthroughs during moments of apparent idleness. Leonardo da Vinci was known for his long periods of contemplation, often appearing to others as if he were doing nothing at all. Isaac Newton formulated his theory of gravity not while actively working, but while idly observing an apple fall from a tree. These moments of boredom allowed their minds to wander, making unexpected connections and stumbling upon revolutionary ideas. But you don't have to take my word for it. There's scientific evidence to back this up. In one study, researchers asked participants to do the boring task of copying out numbers from a phone book. Afterwards, These participants were asked to come up with creative uses for a pair of plastic cups. The results? Those who had just completed the boring task came up with far more creative ideas than a control group who hadn't. The boredom had primed their minds for creative thinking. This brings us to an important reflection on modern life. We live in an age of constant busyness, where every moment of potential boredom is filled with social media interactions, push notifications, and endless streams of content. But in our rush to avoid any moment of mental downtime, we might be robbing ourselves of the very conditions that lead to our best ideas and most profound insights. Perhaps what we need is not more stimulation, but less. We need to embrace those moments of doing nothing, of staring out the window, of letting our minds wander without purpose or direction. It's in these moments that we might find not just better focus and more enjoyment of life, but also our next great idea. Who knows? The next time you allow yourself to be bored, you might just have your own falling apple moment, sparking an idea that changes the world. So here's my challenge to you. The next time you feel boredom creeping in, resist the urge to reach for your phone. Instead, lean into that boredom, embrace it. Let your mind wander. You never know where it might take you. Who knows? You might just invent the next big thing. And if not, well, at least you'll have given your brain a much-needed break.
That's it for today. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe to see more. See you next time.